Good Friday morning, Mount Olive family and friends of Mount Olive who are tuning in for another Friday devotion. We're so glad that you do, and we're thankful for the kind words that you tell us when you see us that you are enjoying these devotions and that they're helping you in your daily walk with Jesus. We all do appreciate those. It's not nothing that we're doing in ourselves. We are just allowing Jesus to use us to help you in your walk with Him on this earth. So this one has been a little different this week. So I should get ready to share my screen with you. This is basically taken off from the pastor's message on Sunday. That he wants to go through and take out a certain part of that story and do a devotion on each one. So mine, as you know, I always like to give mine a theme or a title, and mine is I'm not going in there. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? So we'll get to that in just a minute. It's actually in John 18, verse 28. It says, then led they Jesus, that talking about the council, from Caiaphas into the hall of judgment, and it was early, and they themselves went not into the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. So as Pastor TJ said Sunday, the Roman government had taken away the death penalty, the ius gladii, they call it, the right of the sword from the Jewish nation. So only Rome had this power to kill. And that's why they took Jesus to Pilate. The chief priest and the other priests, they wanted Jesus out of the way. He was not a threat to their religion, but he was a threat to their power and status that they had in their positions. Jesus was teaching a personal relationship with God. And they were the ones who dictated who had a relationship with God and how it was them that you could only go through that and what was allowed. God was only attainable through them and by their customs and traditions. There's these four little words here, and it was early. They make all the difference in the world when we read this. Early was somewhere between 5 and 6 a.m. We know this because Rome would not begin any work, legal or otherwise, before sunrise. So all the things that happened to Jesus, his arrest and the trials, all happened in after midnight. And they got him to the Pilate's house as quick as they could that next morning. And it says, then, and they themselves went not into the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled. So once there, the Roman guards, they take Jesus in the judgment hall, but the priests, they won't go in because to go into a Gentile's house would make them, the priests, ceremonially unclean. Now, in my studies, I came across this quote from John MacArthur. I use a lot of his. I like his teaching. But he says this, he says, there is no such Old Testament ceremonial law that you couldn't go into a Gentile's house. There is no such Old Testament regulation. The rabbis had invented these kinds of things as they pushed the Gentiles further and further away. They had invented things like this to isolate themselves from Gentiles. According to the Mishnah, the codification of Jewish law, we read, the dwelling place of Gentiles are unclean. Now, the Mishnah was a set of laws created by the priests to rule over the lives of the people and to keep them under the control. There's laws like that you could only take so many steps on the Sabbath. If you went over that, then it was work. It was considered work, and you broken the Sabbath. You couldn't look in a mirror on the Sabbath. If you did and you moved a tuft of hair, it was work, and you broke the Sabbath. So there was 612 of these laws that these rabbis had made up. So the rabbis were so concerned about being a part of the order and not unclean that they would even hold their robes close to the body in fear of it brushing up against a Gentile on the street and making them unclean to worship in the temple. They were more concerned about being ceremonial clean than being spiritually clean. They were only fooling themselves. Their goal was to have Jesus killed so that they could be done with him. Now, the priests who strove to be true to the law in their minds were actually breaking the law they were to uphold. Entering the judgment hall of Pilate should be the least of their worries. So, what they were doing in today's legal terms could be classified as premeditated murder with malice aforethought. Uh, they had gathered together to make a plan on how to kill Jesus and to do it without the crowd knowing. So let's look at the scriptures to back up this what I've been telling you here. So Matthew chapter 26, 3 through 5, it says, Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas. Verse 4 says, And they consulted that they might take Jesus by subtlety, and kill him. But they said, Not on the feast day, lest there be uproar among the people. So they got together and they decided, we're going to take him by any way that we can. We were going to take him by, craft or unusual means, even by lying. Whatever it did, they were going to try everything they could to get their hands on Jesus. In Mark, it says, Mark 14, 1 and 2, it says, After 2 days was the feast of the Passover and of unleavened bread. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by craft and put him to death. But they said, Not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar of the people. In Luke, it says in 22, 1 and 12, says, Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. And in John, this is all in all four Gospels, John chapter 11, 47 through 50, they gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. And if we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him. And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. I want you to notice that last line, both our place and nation. They were more concerned about their place than they were their nation. You would have thought they would have said our nation and our place, but no, it was more about the status that they held with the people. Verse 49 says, And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. Then from that day forth, they took counsel together to put him to death. So Caiaphas is saying, well, it's better for one man to die than the whole nation perish. And that's why he wanted Jesus out of the way. So who's guilty party and that should be on trial? The arrest and trial of Jesus made the priests and the elders far more unclean than going into Pilate's house. Let's take a look at some more evidence here. So I came up with his reasons the arrest was illegal. Number one, he said the very ones who would be his judges participated in the arrest. Now in Exodus 23:2, it says, this is one of the laws that was in the Mosaic law. It says, Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. So the priests and the Pharisees had already conspired to take Jesus in secret. We see that. And for them to be a part of the mob that arrested Jesus, they were breaking the law. They wanted to hide the evil that they were subverting justice so that they could legally kill him. Next one, Jesus was arrested secretly at night. So under the cover of night, the mob comes and arrests Jesus. They were being deceitful, not wanting the Jewish people to know what they were doing. We know that, just the week before, Jesus came into Jerusalem, his triumphal entry into Jerusalem on a donkey, and the people cried that that he was the Messiah, but they didn't want this, so they came and arrested him at night so they could keep away from the people. Number three, it says there was no warrant for his arrest and no formal charges. He was just taken. And if you read the four accounts said the mob just came and they took him away. There was no charges that was brought against Jesus at his arrest. He was just taken. Now, reasons the trials of Jesus was illegal. So the trial was illegal at Ananias' house because he was not the high priest. Caiaphas, his son-in-law, was the high priest that year. And number two, the trial at Caiaphas' house was illegal because it was at night. All cases before the Sanhedrin must be during the day and not in anyone's house. It was only in a public setting. Trials could only be in this public setting where credible witnesses could be found. So both the trials at Ananias' house and Caiaphas' house were private events that were attended by a select few of the Sanhedrin. Number three, the Sanhedrin was illegally convened to try a capital offense on the day before an annual Sabbath, holy day, and the Passover. The Mishnah says, that's the Jewish law, says, they shall not judge on the eve of the Sabbath, nor on any festival. So they went that night, that was the eve of the festival, and they arrested Jesus and they were trying him. So they were breaking the law. So they were being unclean by breaking the law. And the trial was ended in one day. Now, no court in Israel was permitted to hold session on the Sabbath or any of the seven biblical holy days. In the case of a capital crime, no trial could be commenced on Friday or the day previous to any holy day. So because it was not lawful either to adjourn such a case that took longer than overnight or to continue them on the Sabbath day. So this trial ended in one day. They tried him and convicted him in one day. So the Mishnah says that a criminal case resulting in the acquittal of the accused may terminate the same day on which the trial began. But if a sentence of death is to be pronounced, it cannot be concluded before the following day. So to have the trial and condemn Jesus to die the same day was illegal according to the law of the Jewish people. Number five, the indictment against Jesus was false and illegal. They could not find any credible witness that would come and testify against Jesus. In Mark 14, 55 and 56, it says, and the chief priests and all the council sought for witnesses against Jesus to put him to death and found none. For many bare false witness against him, but their witness agreed not. So they couldn't find anybody that was a legitimate witness, and to testify, you had to be a legitimate, competent witness, and they couldn't find any. And then the ones who did come and bear false witness against him, they couldn't agree on what to say. So they were all saying different things. Verse 57 says, and there arose certain and bear false witness against him, saying, we heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands. And verse 59 says, but neither so did their witness agree together. So even the false witness who did speak against Christ, their testimonies did not agree and could not be used to convict. Conviction could only come by at least two competent witnesses, and the council had none. Number six, the judge takes on the role of the prosecutor while still being the judge. And we look at Mark again in 60 through 64. It says, and the high priest stood up after they could not find these witnesses. He stood up and in the midst and asked Jesus, saying, answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? So the evidence that they had was not compelling enough for a guilty verdict. Now Caiaphas, now he sets his plan in motion that he had decided to get rid of Jesus. The judge now becomes the prosecutor and questions Jesus. They said, but Jesus held his peace and answered nothing. Again, the high priest asked him and said unto him, art thou the Christ, the Son of the Messiah? Now, this is the question of all eternity, isn't it? It's asked by Caiaphas, "Art thou the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" You know, that same question is still being asked by the world today. And Jesus said, "I am." Jesus could not lie. He was the Son of God. "And ye shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven." So the answer of all eternity is given as well. Jesus said, "I am." And he is the Son of God. And we who are saved are glad of that. And if you may be listening and you're not saved, you should be glad of that also. You may not have accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, but knowing that he is the Savior of the world will give you hope for the future. Verse 63 says, "Then the high priest rent his clothes and said, What need we any further witness? Ye have heard the blasphemy. What think ye?" And they all condemned him to be guilty of death. So Caiaphas, he tore his priestly garments to incite the other members of council that they were that were there. And now the Mishnah says that the judges shall weigh the matter in the sincerity of their conscience. He should not have taken part in this trial. But you know, Caiaphas, he became unceremonially unclean when he did this. So he also disobeyed some of the laws of Moses that had been given to the priest. This one is in Leviticus 10:6, and Moses is talking to Aaron. This is after Aaron's two sons had took strange fire in, and they were killed. And he speaks into Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons. He says, "Uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord had kindled." The Lord had, they brought strange fire in, and the Lord sent down fire and killed both of Aaron's sons because they did this. Leviticus 21:10 is another one that was given to the priest. And it said, "He that is the high priest among his brethren, upon whose head the anointing oil was poured, and that is consecrated to put on the garments, shall not uncover his head nor rend his clothes." So Caiaphas, as I said, he was now unclean. So going into Pilate's judgment hall would not have made it any worse. He was ceremonially clean in his eyes, but in the eyes of should be those who were there, knowing what he did, that he was not clean at all. So coming back to, I'm not going in there. It wouldn't have hurt them to go in there at all because they were all unclean at this point. So what we had here was a kangaroo court that made up the rules as it went along. And you had a hanging judge, as they say, who was set on having Jesus killed. You know, for them to enter the judgment hall was for them not to enter the judgment hall was pure hypocrisy on their part. They were already unclean, as I said. How they had acted and by what they had done overnight, really, they should have known that they were unclean, but they were more set on getting rid of Jesus than doing the right thing. You know, and this really should serve as a warning today to the church world that we don't focus on the formalities and lose sight of Jesus. You know, let's all just focus on Jesus and be the light and salt to the world that we're living in. I hope you've enjoyed this Friday devotion. Hope you'll be at church Sunday. We have another skit planned for this Sunday. This will be, I think it's Barabbas will be the subject. So hope to see you there. We love each one of you and thank you for turning in.